It's just come to 9 minutes past 7. Let's talk about something we haven't mentioned, I don't think yet. Despite an increase in allegations of rape, the number of people prosecuted and convicted in England and Wales is on the decline.
Women's justice groups say Crown Prosecution Service lawyers have altered their approach to rape, from building cases to screening them out if they believe a jury won't convict.
The CPS denies that. Let's talk about this in more detail with Rebecca Hall, a volunteer with the support organisation Trafford Rape Crisis. Morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us. And the figures are really stark. It says 1.5% of rapes reported to police in England and Wales led to a charge or summons, and that's Home Office data. What do you see?
Unfortunately, these figures aren't surprising. This is a trend we've been seeing for the last sort of 12 to 18 months. But these numbers are now at a record all-time low since records began. This is the lowest conviction rate, which just shows that the CPS is failing to deliver justice for victims. It's shocking, really.
Just to put that in some kind of context, in case people get confused by statistics, that 1.5% of rapes reported to police leading to a charge compares with the previous figure of 14%, which was just 3 years ago. Now, something dramatic is changing.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we're wanting to know is exactly what. There is a review in progress at the moment. We need to find out exactly why the CPS is failing to take these cases forward, why the police are failing to put charges forward to the CPS. These victims need justice, and it's not being delivered for them. Are
you seeing in the work you do, are the same number of women coming forward in the first instance, which is possibly when you first see them?
We see women at all stages of kind of the coping or aftermath of the trauma. It can be years afterwards. Actually, the majority of women who come forward to us choose not to report. By the government's own admission, only 20% of victims ever actually report. So despite the increase, which we do welcome, it's not a true representation of what's actually happening.
What is the reason? I mean, there must be so many reasons, but what are the main reasons for women not wanting to report what's happened?
They're in abundance, really. It's a highly complex crime. These women undergo, obviously, a significant trauma. They're then being asked to relive that trauma when they report, to convince a police officer in the first instance. They're also now being asked to hand over their phones to acquire digital evidence. That could be really stressful for someone. It's another privacy violation for them. And then they have to take that case forward to court. Many of them fear they won't be believed. They don't want to relive the trauma. It's just a very traumatic experience.
A lot of people looking at it from the outside might have thought that because of a lot of different cases with the police and the CPS, that there is more sensitivity around issues. It could be to do with child sex offences, for example, but also you might think by now around rape that overall there might have been a more sensitive approach which might have had an impact.
We're not actually seeing that, to be honest with you. These crimes are highly complex, and the people dealing with them at every stage of the process need special training. First-line officers who often take these reports don't have necessarily the right experience to process these claims. A lot of women aren't getting the support they need throughout the criminal justice process.
So you're still hearing nightmare stories of that first encounter when you try and seek help?
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually spoken to someone on the helpline who did try to take their case forward to the police, found the process far too traumatic. She withdrew her claim, and the abuse has continued as a result.
I suppose one of the worrying things as well, there may be people watching today, listening to us, thinking, well, when you hear those kind of stark figures, why would you go and report it? But, it's really important that people try to, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do welcome the increase in people putting their trust in the police in the light of things like the Me Too movement. But these figures are just going to deter women from coming forward. It's going to bring us back to a really stark place where people are just too afraid to own what's happened to them.
The Home Office has responded saying we're extremely concerned by these figures. Victims of rape deserve better. Work is required across the whole system. They also said the government have increased funding for the Crown Prosecution Service by 85 million over the next 2 years. And they're going to look at what further action is needed after they have their own review of the system. I mean, is there any optimism from your point of view that might make a difference?
It seems to be a little bit too little, too late, to be honest. The fact that these have reached the lowest number since records began is just really shocking. We need a really in-depth review of whether trial by jury is appropriate for this kind of complex crime. We need more training and support for frontline first response officers and more support for the victims themselves at every stage of the process.
OK, Rebecca Hall from the Trafford Rape Crisis and Helpline. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.